Good.
There it is.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to admin. Andy, with roll call.
Online, we have Bryce Christensen, Cheryl Hartman, Christina DeWar, Elizabeth Holtz, Kyla Talbert, Maddie Scott, Melissa Fisher, Micah Grimmett, MCAT, and Mike Morelli. 206, we have Commissioner Vero, Slotnick, and Strohmeyer, Brian West, Chris Lounsbury, Ann Kathy, Randy Arnold, Nicholas Santos, Ann Hughes, Brenda Davis, Carrie Powers, Andrew Hagemeyer, and I'm sorry?
Glenn Ingram.
Glenn Ingram from
And
the
can I tell
city.
you my favorite mnemonic device?
Yes, please.
Zenettis like lettuce.
You keep telling me that and I can't remember it. I'm
It's legendary at
so
this
sorry.
point.
Nick.
Yeah.
Totally works.
It does. It's foolproof. Yeah.
Why, if I was doing roll call, I would just have everyone.
Say your own name. So
You
smart.
just need a step name.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay, consent agenda. There are 5. Anything that needs to be pulled out or discussed separately?
Move that we approve the consent agenda. I would second that.
Okay, any further discussion or public comment? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Glenn.
This should be a really quick one. I'm bringing 3 MPO agreements today that have been revised. These are existing agreements. They had to be revised as part of our redesignation. The MPO is currently going through that redesignation as we're switching from planning board being the MPO to TPC being the planning board, or sorry, being the MPO. And if you're sit on TPCC, you're probably familiar with this because we've chatted about it a little bit. But as we're going through that redesignation process, we have to do a revision of our existing agreements and bylaws and just do some sort of procedural updates. And we're going to package that all up and give it to the governor to go through redesignation. So I have 3 documents today that have been revised. Those are the cooperative performance-based planning agreement. And that's just the agreement where the MPO has adopted the state targets for performance measures. The second is the agreement for PL funds, and that just is the agreement between city, county, MUTD on how the MPO operates and takes those PL funds and utilizes them as an MPO. And then the next is just our agreement on the planning process, and that just outlines our committees and process for how we operate as MPO. So they're generally unchanged. There's just been sort of 3 revisions to these agreements. The first is changing any reference of the planning board to TPCC. The second is a few small changes just based around how we changed our bylaws as MPO. And then the third is just some updated legal language from MDT. So they should mostly be unchanged. Procedurally, the MPO will be unchanged. How it operates, everything will essentially be the same. I did have John Hart take a look at them, so he's been able to review.
Okay.
And other than that, I can just answer any questions you might have.
John.
John is not here, but I did speak with him. He went through everything. I'm sorry I won't be as capable of answering deep questions like John was, but
He gave it a
He's been
thumbs up.
supportive
That's good
approval.
enough. There we go. Thanks a lot, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would,
Oh, go ahead.
This one will come via DocuSign from the Department of Transportation, correct?
Yeah, so the state's going to have to distribute them for signatures. So once they go, I'll have to take it to the city and MUTD after this, but once it's gone through those other jurisdictions, they'll be signed at once, yeah.
Thanks, Glenn.
Yes.
If you'll let me know, I'll let you guys know we're good to sign when it comes through. Yeah.
Cool.
Any further discussion or public comment?
Anyone made a motion?
Oh, I thought, I was envisioning.
Is there, is,
I heard a noise over
I was
here.
about to, but I wasn't sure if this would require a motion. We're just,
Says it's under action items.
okay, yeah, it is. All right, so I would move that we take care of number 1. Second.
Okay, any further discussion or public comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No correspondence, discussion items. Okay, budget. presentation. We'll start with Park.
Pass these down that side there. So good morning, Commissioners. Nick and I are here representing the Parks, Trails and Recreation Division. 2 items for fiscal year 26 budget request. The first is a county contribution increase to the Missoula City Park and Recreation Department scholarship program. So as you, I think, are aware, the city of Missoula has a really robust programming team and programming effort. And as part of that programming effort over the years, they have had a scholarship program that they titled Parks and Recreation Share the Fun Scholarship Program. And they offer that both to city and county residents. It's primarily to reduce the financial barrier for participating in these programs. The county has participated in that for many years and supporting that program. It represents in fiscal year 25, over 650 individuals took advantage of that program, or $75,000 in grant projects awarded. And the program averaged 347 families served between 2022 and 2025. The city came to us a couple years ago and said that they're seeing a steady interest in that program and are starting to exceed the capacity of their scholarship program to support participants, and asked if the county would consider increasing our portion or our support for that program. Traditionally, we've provided $4,655 to that program. And I asked how they might judge or come up with a good recommendation for how the county could continue or could increase our support for the program. So they broke it out with fiscal year 23 and 24 average of non-city resident county participation in the program, and came up with a total amount of $10,500. So they're requesting that we pursue an increase of $5,845 from the county each year to support that program. There's a few additional details there where they broke out how the county residents were normally participating in that scholarship program, and it represented over 50 day to week-long summer camp registrations, swim lesson sessions, 200 plus aquatic passes. So we look to our city programming partners both to provide programming at our county sites like Marshall Mountain, and we see that they're really the programming arm for the county because we don't have a programming system like that built within our Park and Recreation Division. We could someday pursue that and grow that, but I imagine anywhere we grew there, we would actually collaborate with the city to provide a much better service to our community than just trying to build our own program right now.
Do you know how the scholarship program works?
So I do. Nick might have some more details.
Yeah, so it's an application process and it's based off of income threshold for the family. So you have to meet a certain income to be able to qualify for it. And then
How do people find out about it?
it's through city email listserv and list chain, and they promote that through the city Parks and Rec channels that they have there. So if you are frequently using or visiting places like Currents or there's posters, they do flyers, and they kind of get the word out that way. I know they also get some fiscal sponsorships from outside community organizations as well. So they can help support.
I want to note that they charge the full price isn't even very much. I say this with praise to the city that they've done, I feel like are doing a really good job of making it so that if a family wants to have kids here, they're making it easy to participate.
So does this
Appreciate the
ask,
scholarship?
does this ask reflect the fact that the city has been subsidizing scholarships for folks who do not live in the city? Is that?
It does. So their overarching program, and the county also contributes in another pot to help offset the impacts of non-city resident use of county or use of city spaces. And then that, I guess the way I would describe it is they also are bringing in all of those nonprofit pieces, Friends of Missoula Parks and sponsors to that program. And also the overall amount of money going towards that scholarship program is much larger than it's represented here. But Dave, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, I'm looking at what's making up the difference between the this average 10,500 and our current contribution.
Yeah, so they've been covering that either internal or through those external contributions as well. So pretty much, the county has not been contributing at the rate that the county participants have been actually utilizing the program for.
And I checked with Dee Dee on when was the last time the county increased our contribution, and she said we haven't increased it in at least 10 years that she was aware of. So it's been a steady increase in growth. They finally came to us and said, hey, would you guys consider increasing your participation?
Thank you.
So the second item is a requested.
I'm sorry, so.
Sure.
Total contribution with proposed increase, so the actual request is only a 5,000, is it 58?
Correct.
Okay.
So the next item or second item is an increase in FTE to an existing 0.3 parks maintenance position. So a little background, what used to be Parks, Trails, and Open Lands is now the Parks, Trails, and Recreation Division. But through that transition over time, Missoula County has grown and recommitted or shaped its program and how we provide service at all of our parks and trails. In 2022, we hired our first maintenance and stewardship specialist, and that was really an eye towards providing better service at all of our parks, better trail maintenance and trail management, and expanded services for actually developing or improving our parks for additional site development, playgrounds, and that equipment. With each new addition comes additional maintenance. With each new commitment for trail and mile of trail comes maintenance. So in 2022, when we hired our first maintenance and stewardship specialist, we saw this really amazing immediate connection to the users of the parks and an awareness that those are actually a county park, and a really great return from neighbors and relationship building and service and compliments that the trails are well maintained and the rest, but that person was immediately overwhelmed, and you just can't get everywhere with one person. They've worked really well with Public Works and also still with contracting. There's a right sizing of when do we take on those responsibilities versus continuing to just contract those services. But despite that, that single person is Taylor Harris, and he's just really grown in the position, done a wonderful job meeting all these needs. He's built out a year-round programming, but there's these peak times from snow removal to mowing, then the every week stuff from trash pickup to maintenance of the sites and irrigation and all those kinds of things, and the rental spaces that we have and making sure those are ready for the next rental. So in the last year, we did some restructuring of that Parks, Trails, and Recreation Division. We had an available FTE that I used and kind of chopped up in multiple places, and out of that pulled a 0.3 FTE and hired our first seasonal maintenance position for this summer, trying to expand that program. The addition of that second person right out of the gate already this spring has meant that Taylor can now either go where needed. 2 people often means you're getting 3 people's worth of work done in a funny way, like those times where you need 2 hands to actually get something done. It's improved efficiency, it's improved safety. It means that you're not lifting giant heavy stuff you shouldn't be, but it's also meant that they can take on projects themselves that they probably would have contracted out just because you have an extra set of hands. It's also meant during those peak times in the summer, he can divide and conquer. So this person can go one direction and hit a trail, and Taylor can go solve a problem at a rental, which he's never been able to do before. So we're already experiencing the benefit of having that our second person. The proposal is to expand that to a year-round FTE by the addition of a 0.7 to that position. So that request is the total position would be a $69,000 position, or addition to that for that one FTE. The increase is about $55,000.
There be any cost savings through eliminating contracted services now that this person would be doing? It's a great question.
That's a very good question. I think there's a balance that there definitely is some contract services that we would definitely take off the books if this person is here full time. Right now, we're trying to go through a maintenance backlog so we can work within our existing maintenance budget to kind of keep some of our contracted services going, mainly like in the park mowing category, so we can really make a push on some of our capital improvement infrastructure upgrades, like installing park benches, painting old facilities, staining, a lot of like the deferred maintenance that we have a hard time contracting out because it's too small. Mowing is a category that's super easy to contract out because it's very much routine based. There's a lot of companies that do that. So we can decrease it in some of those specialty contracted services that we've used. For example, building a privacy partition around a porta pot, that's something we can now do in-house if we have 2 people full time. And that's harder to find someone to do because it's a low cost project. We don't get a lot of bidders on that. So we kind of have that balance of kind of keeping contracted services in the areas that where maybe it's not the most efficient to use our staff, but then using our staff where we have a hard time with a few of those services.
Thank you. Yeah, great.
Awesome. Thank you. How is it?
All right. Yeah, so this is a little bit complicated. So I'm going to walk you through the story here. We own a building, the DirecTV building at the tech park. Missoula County owns that. We collect rent or lease on it, right? About $750,000 a year. Most of that money goes to pay the debt service to pay for constructing that building. This happened a long time ago. No one at this table was involved.
How far out are we from paying it off?
We are, I think, about 4 to 5 years from there. So out of that lease money, about $90,000 does not go to pay for the debt service. So that $90,000 is technically unrestricted funds. So we, Missoula County, can use it for whatever we want. So right now, all of this money, for some reason it's set up this way, but all of the money that we collect from the DirecTV lease gets put in the same account as the tax increment financing for that tech district. So that's a little bit of a problem, and I don't know, no one knows why. We're not putting any blame on anyone, but what we're doing is we're mixing restricted funds, which are tax increment are restricted by statute, with unrestricted funds. So county no, right? So what we're proposing to do is separate those two things, right? So we're proposing to not put that lease money from the DirecTV building into our tax increment account anymore. We're going to put it into this account under our housing program type.
Did we just figure this? We just catch this?
I don't know.
Oh.
I did. Flana and I caught it this year. Yeah. Well, Flana actually knew about it before, but yeah, we said this is the time we're going to do it, and the budget team said, yes, let's do that. That makes sense. So that's just a moving of money. But here's where it gets kind of fun is we've got this $90,000 that's unrestricted funds that we can use for whatever we want. So we've got a proposal for you to consider. It has multiple parts. So my position is funded 100% through tax increment financing. But you've asked me to do much more than that, right? I also administer the county's housing program and work on general economic development projects throughout the county. So according to statute, part of my job should really be coming from another source, some sort of unrestricted source, not from tax increment financing. So we're proposing to take $40,000 of this 90 and put it towards my salary, right? So my position. So 1/4 of my position will not be funded through tax increment financing. 3/4 will. So that seems like a good balance right now on where I spend my time. That means there's about $50,000 out of this lease that we're not using. And what we're proposing to do is take that $50,000 and put it into our housing innovation fund. So that what we're trying to do is set a precedence, hopefully, of putting $50,000 every year into our housing innovation fund. Right now we put nothing in, and it only goes down. This will, at least, we haven't used any money in a couple of years, so, we would have added $100,000 to it. I mean, it little bit amount of money, but it might help at times. So, so that's what we're planning to do here. I think it's important to know that this is from the DirecTV lease. If we are going to renegotiate that lease this year, they have the option to buy. If they buy that property, this is kind of a one-time deal. But we're hoping that either they re-up their lease or someday maybe they decide they don't want to buy that property. The county retains it and then we can lease it out. And we're hoping this might be more sustainable in the long run, but time will tell.
Presumably, if they buy the property, that will be several $1 million that would.
No.
The way it's structured.
That's bad. I was just going to ask Chris, and you may be able, if you can explain it, go for it. From my acquaintance with this, what I remember is that it was very non-traditional in terms of conventional real estate. It felt very unusual. If you guys want to.
I understand what's going on, but I'm going to let Chris answer.
Sure.
It wasn't necessarily unwise. So in order to attract DirecTV to Missoula at the time, the commission and the Board of Investments entered into an agreement whereby the Board of Investments lent the funding to construct the building at low to no interest rate to the county and DirecTV in this three-party agreement. The county agreed to allow DirecTV to basically pay that loan off through the lease of the facility with the Board of Investments. That lease will be paid off in 2031. So about 5 to 6 years roughly is when that lease would be paid off, at which point DirecTV has, in essence, gets the building, right? So they paid the kind of the upfront costs, they contributed towards the construction, and then we entered into this
Kind of a lease to own sort of situation.
in essence, a lease to own situation. And so in 2031, I don't remember exactly what date, in 2031, the last lease payment would pay off the last.
So there would be no millions if they were to buy it.
Why are they paying more than the debt service?
Just because we've negotiated that and we've negotiated for that.
So as I said, that was part of the original agreement, was that there was also this recognition. And in essence, what they're doing is they're paying the cost of the land. You can think of it that way. Our investment held the building, we held the land.
If DirecTV goes away, fails, whatever, then what happens?
Yeah, so there are provisions in the lease. The county is not responsible for the cost of the loan, and of course, DirecTV wasn't the primary entity at the time. DirecTV's became part of AT&T for a while and then split off, and so the lease kind of survives that. So no matter what, DirecTV is on the hook for the costs of the loan itself, and so even if they choose to walk away, they are still obligated to pay off the state.
So Chris, let's say they go through 2031 and they effectively pay off the loan.
Mm-hmm.
Now they own the building.
Mm-hmm.
What if they say, we're done with this business, we'd like to sell this building? Is it theirs to sell?
I would have to reread the lease to be sure, but yes, I believe it is at that point. The deed in essence transfers.
So they could sell it to whoever.
Yeah, they would, yeah. It would become their asset. So. Are you okay?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thanks.
Better than I could do.
Remember, it's 96 pages.
50,000 each year that would go into the TIF fund until 2031?
Not the TIF.
I mean, not the TIF.
Housing innovation.
The HIF.
Sorry. Well, just one continent off. It's okay.
One, we can only guarantee it this year because for this fiscal year, 26, because we're going to be renegotiating the lease with DirecTV.
Okay.
We could get more money, we could get less money, or they could decide they don't want to be there at all and leave.
Yeah.
In which case, then we could maybe find someone else to lease the building.
Which would be really unusual given that, or I'd say financially unwise, I'm gonna go out on a limb, because they're only 4 years away from paying off this asset that they would have to sell for millions.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, $50,000 to the HIF fund, $40,000 to diversify my position. So Flana, who just showed up for the record, went back through the last lease and looked at all the transactions within that tax increment finance account where they were getting mixed, and was able to identify that because we were mixing this and we were just letting it accumulate, there was about $350,000 in that tax increment count that was attributed to the lease, right? So we have these restricted funds and we have about 350,000 in unrestricted funds. So this is now one-time money because it accumulated over time. So we're suggesting that we take this one-time money, about $350,000, and we also add that to our Housing Innovation Fund. So now our Housing Innovation Fund is about, I was guessing about $1 million if we do this.
It would be, yes.
Yeah.
I did not, I'll have a chance to get
It's
into
okay.
infinite vision.
Yeah.
Still not, a thorn in all of our sides.
Which is more money than we started with. So
50,000.
How much did we spend on the, was it Two Bear?
it was around $200,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So, the long-term vision of that Housing Innovation Fund is that grows over time, but we want to find a sustainable source to grow it. This doesn't quite get there, but it adds money to it. And the best part of all this, in my opinion, is that it's all funded. Every penny is funded through not through taxpayer dollars, right? So this is not costing the taxpayer a penny. In fact, if you really want to get into the weeds, because we're going to pay part of my position through this pot of money, at least for the next fiscal year, it actually reduces the burden some on the taxpayer, right? So that is the DirecTV situation, Housing Innovation Fund, DirecTV.
It's great.
Okay.
Thanks, Flana, for
Yeah, good job.
finding all
digging
of
this.
this. Forensic accounting.
We would have loved to further back, but it got too complicated.
Rare to use.
Yeah. We're just taking advantage of money that we have that's just been kind of disappearing. So the next proposal is for a new FTE for the Community Economic Development Department. Simply put, our department has grown. We've added more tax increment districts, and we're getting way more requests. And so we've outgrown our capacity. I've done some research, and a tax increment financing program, if you look on the internet, of our size in terms of the amount of money that it manages, typically has between 3 to 6 FTEs that do an array of different things. This is according to them. Or they heavily outsource work. And we do some outsource work, but not heavily. So what our experience has been over the past year, as we've really started to get some really big complex projects like the Y water system, is that Flana and I can handle one big project. But when we start to have multiple big projects coinciding at the same time, so when we were dealing with Grant Creek Crossing and the creation of that TED and the Y water system at the same time, we became overloaded. And our normal day-to-day activities that we worked on, so like my responsibilities for the housing program, for example, basically John was just on a lifeboat out by himself. The Y plan, which was supposed to be done 9 months ago, it's not done yet. So that's the ramifications of our current staffing load. Things that are already on the table just aren't getting done. So we're proposing the addition of an FTE. It would be proposing it at the level of the lands and economic development specialist, whatever weird title Flana's position is. We're proposing a second Flana. That proposal would be funded entirely through tax increment financing, so it would not go on the general budget. And that tax increment financing, for the record, it's money, it's not new taxes, it's tax revenue within the tax cap that we already have. We have looked at the health of the districts coming up, because we have a couple of districts that are about to expire, one next year, one in 7 years. But with the amount of development we're seeing at the Y, we do believe this to be very sustainable. So over time, so those are our two asks.
Those are great. Thank you.
Thank you. Upcoming events and invitations. 6:30 Free Cycles Saturday. Empower Spinal Cord Injury is doing a community celebration fundraiser. So they're interested in the adaptive community, come on down to Free Cycles for some good times, music, beer, food, amazing people. That's signing. We're done. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Morning, day.
Thanks. Thanks.